So I just had an exhibition at OBORO Gallery called Tomorrow People. I called it Tomorrow People because, first reason, everything in there is based on an avatar. Second reason, I guess, I almost feel like I don't need this now. Because I don't know what's in there anymore. So I'll just tell you what I was going to tell you, and then I'll just go through the images. I guess the first thing I want to tell you is that I have been a fan of science fiction since I was a kid. And I read all the books that I could get my hands on that were science fiction, and I also like to watch the shows, especially like Star Trek. And I like Star Wars too, but I was more of a Star Trek fan. And that happened, that was continuing on for a long time, and it was only when I was in my 20s that I started to be a little more critical. And I was like, there are no Indians, or actually even any non-white people in these stories. And it was not cool. So I was feeling, so that was one thing I noticed and realized. And then the other thing that sort of happened was I thought, maybe, so basically Native people were and are kind of in trouble, right? We still have the highest high school dropout rate, highest incarceration rate, and highest suicide rate in the country. And so I started to think, maybe there's a connection, Nobody can see us in the future. Maybe that's a problem, And so I realized that, and also, I don't know if you know this, but artists go through these like existential crises where you're like, why am I an artist? Like, what can I possibly give to the world? I'm so selfish that I just want to draw pictures and, expect people to like them. And so all these things were sort of, I'm giving you, this was like years of my life, but they kind of came together at one point, and I kind of realized that maybe that was my contribution. Maybe I could start making images and telling stories about us in the future. So that's what I've been doing, kind of it's in very small ways, not, major, big, total society changing ways, but I hope that it's, that's the direction I'm headed in. So what I was planning to show you, and I hope I can show you, is some of my work that led up to the video that I'm going to be showing you now. So Tomorrow People, the title, is referring to that. Avatar is kind of a metaphor for the future for me. And so Tomorrow People is what I'm talking about. Okay, make sense? So yeah, I don't have the piece I wanted to show you, which was Imagining Indians in the 25th Century, which is online. So actually, if we're connected in here, maybe after, if you're interested, we can go to the website and take a look at it. Who here has seen TimeTraveller TM? Did you all took a look at it? Fantastic. Did you watch them all? No? Okay. All right. Well, so basically the first, not looking at this one, but in the first time I actively made a piece that envisioned Native people in the future was this piece I'm just telling you about. I call it for short Imagining Indians. And what it was, or is, was basically a web-based paper doll. And so I created this character. Her name was Gazitza Howie Kaposo, and she lived in our time, which was 2001 at the time. And it's unexplained. It doesn't need to be explained, I think, in the piece, but basically she time travels to 10 events along a timeline of 1 millennium of history. And the timeline begins in 1490, 2 years before the arrival of Columbus to the so-called New World, and ends in 2490. And along the way, I divide it up by a century, 10 centuries, and I choose an event in each century for her to visit and comment upon from her perspective as a modern, Ganyangahaga woman. And so with each stop along the way, she has a historically appropriate costume, and she writes a journal entry. So that was one piece, and I like to present it when I'm talking about sort of my trajectory, because that piece really informed TimeTraveller TM. So some of the research that I did, but also actually I showed this piece at one point, and someone said, "This is such a girl piece." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Well, paper dolls, journaling, so feminine." And I was like, "Oh wow, you know, I hadn't thought of it that way." Because when I was making the piece, I had intended to have a male character. I actually had 4 characters that I was thinking that each would have costumes, and maybe they'd interact, and it would be, you know, really amazing, but it was just too complicated. And I think as I go along, I realize simplifying is better. So I wanted to still make this piece though, I wanted to make the brother piece basically. And I thought, well, if paper dolls and journaling is like a girl thing, or what's a boy thing? If it's a girl play time, kind of play, what would be a boy kind of play? And so I thought about video games, of course. And so this was in 2002, and I was like trying to figure out how I could make this piece that looked like a video game. And the only answer at the time was animation, which I didn't know how to do. But I was lucky and basically won this competition that I could do this animation project at the Banff Center for the Arts. And we started working on the project. I wrote the script, I sent it in, and they're like, "It's too long, can't do that." Cut out this part, cut out this part. And it's the animator cutting out parts of my story. And I finally was like, you know, okay, I have to pull out this. I'm like, no wonder Canadian shows are so bad. And so I still didn't make it. And then, oh, that's wrong. Oh, look, there she is. There's Kazitza Howie dressed as Star Trek person, Raven. Raven is the other native character I ever saw in science fiction, which is in the book Snow Crash. He's the bad guy, which I thought was awesome. Yeah, the author had enough respect to make him the bad guy. Okay. I'm going to get off track if I show you this, but I really want to show you this. But let's see.
On the website, because everything is on the website, it's going to be easier.
Actually, all I was going to show you, no, this particular picture that I was going to show you is not on the website. So I'm going to, dang, there we go. I'm going to come back to that piece in a minute. In 2006, that's the wrong year, is it? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Some time ago, yeah, it was around 2006 or maybe 4, somebody showed me this massively multiplayer online virtual world called Second Life. Has anyone here know about Second Life? So it's this, you know, I mean, for me it was the bomb. Like it was the coolest thing, because what you're seeing here is a person's avatar. Okay, and so basically when you get an account to this world, you show up as a humanoid figure. That's your default thing, and then you can customize your avatar. You can put different clothes on it. You can build things in this world it has building tools, and you can film things. And so you can basically make what's called machinima, which I think I have. Dun-dun-dun. So the word machinima is a portmanteau, which is an English word, with a machine called cinema, and it just means making movies in virtual environments. And so basically, like I just said, you know, your avatars are your actors, you build your sets, and then you film the action. And so that's what you all saw in Time Traveler TM. And so I guess I'm not going to show you any episodes of Time Traveler TM like I kind of thought I would. So we'll skip that part. But, and you know, Time Traveler is about angry young Mohawk man living in the 22nd century, using a technology of his time to time travel. But even in the story, he's not time traveling. He's just, you know, playing with his edutainment system and also learning about his heritage. One thing that you might not have gotten out of watching it, and if you haven't watched the whole thing, don't forget that. What I thought with Time Traveler TM that I was doing is I had this story arc. And the beginning of it, basically Hunter represents native people. And he starts off, if you saw the first episode, he starts off as a hired gun living in a storage locker. Okay, and he's totally lost. He doesn't know his way, and he's not just lost, but he's like a bad guy, pretty much. But he's very likable, of course. But still, he's like very, you know, so lost that he doesn't know how to use his talents for good. And I kind of liken that to Native people in the 50s and before. Like there was this point in our trajectory or development where it really looked like we might not make it, like we might not survive as Native people. I mean, certainly the whole Canadian government was against us and was aiming for that. They wanted assimilation, and they almost got it. But I think what happened with us is, thankfully because of whatever was happening, but I think a lot of what was happening in the States with the civil rights movement was, it was also was echoed here, and we, looked towards our heritage and found the stuff in there that made us proud of who we were and made us know why we wanted to be Native still, why we wanted to maintain that status in this world, in this time. And so by learning it, we got better, we got healthier. And so what happens with Hunter is he starts off basically poor and kind of messed up, and as he learns his heritage, he turns around and he starts to love himself. He has the love of another person, and also he gets rich and famous. Because that's the world I created, because you don't see too many rich and famous Native people either around, so I wanted to put that in there. So I'm not going to show any of that stuff. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go back to the one I skipped over a moment ago. So this is from 2002. In 2002, sound compression was still not happening, okay? So that's why it's going to sound like I have a lisp when we're talking. It's called Thanksgiving Address, Greetings to the Technological World. So who here is familiar with the Thanksgiving Address, the Iroquois Thanksgiving Address? Okay, so I'll just tell you a tiny bit about it. I know you two are, but I'm glad you raised your hand. So, it's called Ohandugariwatakwa in Ganyangeha. And if I can just think for 1 second, I can actually say a line or two for you. Agwego Oska, andide wawe nuni, ne unkwanikura, tanoteo tinuuradu, ne unkwe suma. And what that means is, we are here to, and now we gather our minds together as one. And so that we can give thanks to the people. In the Thanksgiving address, that's just one little part. You end up, I think there's 13 things, and there's actually a couple of versions. Some people say it in a different order, and also most people, when they say it, they embellish it quite a bit. But that's the kernel of it. So, and then at the end, you say, together, now our minds are one. And so, what I did with this piece with my partner, my husband now, Jason, is we thought, what would happen if in the future they added some verses to the Thanksgiving address? And so this is just a couple. It's only an excerpt of the whole piece, which I think you can still see, yes, if you go online and explore. But I'll show you this, and remember, I don't really have a list. Yay? Yes. This is going to be the whole thing, so.
Today we have gathered to thank the Creator for all our gifts. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all technological things. So now, we bring our minds together as one, and we give greetings and thanks. We are all thankful for the computer, the platform from which we can create and communicate. Daily, this tool enriches our lives. For this, we send greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one.
We give thanks for TCP/IP. With it, our computers can talk to each other across the continents and across cultures. Whether it's our voices speaking, our language typing, or our eyes seeing, TCP/IP guides the data where it needs to go. Packets are sent out, packets are received. All is in order. For this we give thanks. Now our minds are one.
We give thanks to the Internet, which allows us to be connected to each other, forming a web across our Mother Earth. We know its power in many forms: email, chat, newsrooms. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the spirit of the Internet. Now our minds are one.
We send greetings and thanks for C++ and Java and all other programming languages. They provide us with the means to speak intimately with our computers, to instruct them in how to transform electricity into information and emotion. Through them occurs the everyday magic of transubstantiating the word into form. Now our minds are one.
We turn our minds to digital imaging hardware, the scanners, digital still cameras, and digital video cameras. They transform the analog images of our world into the digital data of the computer world. They let us show each other what is in our minds and in our hearts. For these, we send our greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one.
We give thanks to the PIC chip and basic stamp, for they allow us to connect the virtual and the physical. They expand the senses we can make available to our computers, allowing them to sense somebody's breath or move objects around. We're grateful for their power and simplicity. Now our minds are one.
Now we turn toward non-linear editing. This way of working frees us to realize our thoughts in any order we may wish. Storytelling is made natural once again. With our minds gathered together, we give thanks and look forward to working with non-linear editing for many years to come. Now our minds are one.
We join together in giving thanks for Photoshop and Illustrator, and all the other tools for manipulating digital media. They represent the age-old power of bending and shaping, of using our hands to turn matter to our own ends. With them, we can rescue a blurred photograph, extract a voice from a noisy train station, and transform a Queen sample into Ice Ice Baby. Now our minds are one. We've now arrived at the place where we end our words. Of all the things we've named, it was not our intention to leave anything out. If something was forgotten, we leave it to each individual to send such greetings and thanks in their own way. Now our minds are one.
Aw, I haven't watched it in so long. So you guys didn't laugh, I noticed. So, yeah. So in episode 3 of Time Traveler TM, I made my characters ribbon shirts. Ribbon shirts are sort of our traditional regalia, okay? Iroquois people and also Anishinaabe people wear that. And we wear them to ceremonies or even socials or just sometimes special occasions. My cousin wore one to my wedding. So I was like, wait a second, I want my avatar to have a ribbon shirt. And so we made them and made this one. And like, as I don't know if you can tell so well from this picture, but like, Second Life, you know, over the years, it's like really developed the technology. But back in at this time, all the clothing is basically just another layer of skin. So that's why it's all so skin tight. It's, you know, and now they've figured out how to make it look less like that. But that's why. So my ribbons are like right on my body. But anyway, I was super happy to get that. And then I was like, I don't even have a ribbon shirt. I didn't have a ribbon shirt of my own. And so I wanted to make one of those. And then, you know, somewhere in there, I was like, I want to dress as my avatar. What, you know, what does that mean? And I got my chance because I was invited to speak at this performance studies conference. And so Lauren writes me, right? And she's like, I'd like you to come to this performance studies conference and present your work. And I'm like, well, I don't do performance. You have the wrong Skawennati, you know? They're like, no, when you did this, that was performance. When you do that, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess you're right. And I was like, well, actually, and we were having a wonderful conversation. I said, well, you know, I've kind of been wanting to dress up as my avatar. Do you think this would be a good venue? And she was, what? You know, she was very happy, and she totally encouraged me. So I went and I made my ribbon shirt, and I found a tutu, and I got these boots, and then the hair thing was a travesty because I was, you know, I got the Band-Aids, which I forgot to put on. I wanted to do my hair like this, but my talk was at 9 o'clock in the morning, and no hairdresser would open up for me before 9 in the morning to get my hair done. So what I did was I braided my hair. I'm bad at hair. That's why my hair is just straight like this. Like I don't know how to do anything. But I did know how to braid a little. So I braided my hair and I spray painted it with like white hairspray. so then that's how I looked, which was awful. It was a failure. I hated it. I was very unhappy. I mean, it was kind of fun, but I was like, I need a do-over. This is not good enough. So it took a little while, but then a young woman came into my lab. So I work across the street in the EP building. And I'm the luckiest artist probably in Canada because I have access to students from the computation arts department, and they make me look good. Like, they come in and they're like, I think we should try doing this with this technology. And I'm like, can it fit into your work? And I'm like, maybe, yeah, let's try it. And so this woman comes in and she's like, I just happen to have a degree as a fashion designer, but now I want to do computers. And I was like, oh my God, you can help me with this. My costume is not a costume, it's not good enough. And so she designed this shirt for me. And so one of the things that happens in this project, which I haven't shown you the final outcome yet, is that I realized, or one of the things that was most interesting was the iterations we had to go through between the real live costume for a real person's body and the costume on the avatar and the parameters that Second Life gives you. And so we had to keep iterating to get closer and closer to one another until we got to the point where I felt it was good. And that's where the hair comes in. Like, this is my avatar's hair now because it's the awesomest hair. But as you saw, I wasn't able to make that happen in real life. So actually, this was the day before the photo shoot. I bought new clothes, you're gonna see them in a second, but this is the day before the photo shoot, and we're like, it can't work, and so I send to the hairdresser different hairstyles that are available in Second Life, and she's like, yes, I can do this one, no, I can't do this one, yes, I can do this one, you know, and so that's how we ended up with this, dun-dun-dun, which I'm happy with. This is a little squashed here. Oh no, it's a little squashed there too. I look really tall and thin in it, actually. And so this piece is also in the Tomorrow People show, and I call it Dancing with Myself. And it's about the seduction of the avatar, like how when you get into these worlds, you like love being an avatar. It's like, you know, you never have a bad hair day, or you have awesome, cool hair, right? You don't have belly aches, you know, there's a lot of great things about being an avatar. In Second Life, you can fly. But the reason I have them positioned the way they are is because I also wanted to talk about the desire of the non-human, like, I'm sure there's a word, I think golem comes closest, but humanoid might be okay, but you know, these synthetic humans or unreal humans who also always want to be human, like Pinocchio, right? They're often in literature, you have these beings and they want to be human, they want to eat. Yeah. So that's what this piece is about for me. So I've recently come out as a Barbie collector. I have a Barbies of Color collection. And I've loved Barbie for a long time. I won't talk too much about her, but the reason I show her is because over this period of time, I was thinking about I've been thinking about Barbie for a long time. Why do I love her so much? Why do I collect her? And I finally decided that she actually represents empowerment to me. As a young girl, you know, I didn't know it at the time, but I lived below the poverty level with my family of 7. And you know, my mom also was excommunicated from Kahnawake for marrying a non-Iroquois person. And so we were living in Chattagee, and she didn't drive. And so we were kind of stuck, but I didn't feel that way. Or maybe I did a little bit. Maybe I was dimly aware of it because, you know, my Barbie could go anywhere. So when, you know, we were playing in the backyard, right, that was like, my Barbie was at the beach. You know, my neighbor down the street, she had the camper. The Barbie camper van, you know, we used to go everywhere. So to me, I think that's what Barbie means. And then, you know, I started seeing Cornhusk dolls. That's more as an adult. I didn't see those as a kid. And the Cornhusk doll is, you know, you can see what it is, I think, right? And of course, they're ancient toys. They're, you know, in ancient Iroquois, that's apparently what men actually made for their little girls, their daughters and nieces. But now they're mostly these figurines that are beautifully, you know, dressed up like that. But I wanted to like draw a connection between the two of them, between Barbie and and the cornhusk doll, kind of like the cornhusk doll was her ancestor or something. I wasn't sure, like it was for years I was trying to figure this out until I made Dancing with Myself. And then I realized that the three things are all equal. They're all these playthings. And it's kind of like what my grandmother played with, or my aunt, my great-grandmother, what I played with, and what my children will play with. And so, this is some making of stuff, I think. I got my cousin to make the cornhusk doll, mainly because I didn't have time to do it myself. We actually took a cornhusk doll making course years ago together, but I couldn't do it. But I did make the outfits. That's me in my messy area. Oh, the same girl who did my hair for the avatar, for the Dancing with Myself, she did the Barbie hair and all that. And so here's the final piece. It's called Generations of Play. And because I actually made a cornhusk doll, well, my cousin did, and I actually made the outfits for real 3D dolls, I was convinced, again, by some of the students who were like, why don't we just print out your avatar? We can just make a 3D print and you can have a 3D piece too. And we had already tried printing out an avatar, and it took a crazy amount of time because of technology stuff that you don't really want to hear about. It's very boring. But anyway, they said, Second Life's different now. It's all different now. So anyway, we did it. But it's just that she's much uglier. Oh, it's on automatic. I find her face really ugly. So I think I might not talk too much about this unless somebody knows who Mariko Mori is. Okay. All right, let's let that one go. Okay, and now I'm going to play you the first Machinima, 1 minute long.
Teutinuuradu ne ungwe sumpa. To ni otunhak ne unkwa nigura. Les mots avant toute chose. Nous unissons nos esprits pour offrir nos remerciements et salutations aux gens. Maintenant, nos esprits ne font qu'un. Words before all else. We bring our minds together as one, as we give thanks for the people. Now our minds are one.
That's it, and then the credits. And our lovely lady here translated the English into French for me. Yamagoa. I still owe you a beer. All right. So basically now we've gotten to the place where I can show you this She Falls for Ages. I actually don't think it needs any introduction. Do you have any questions about maybe my way of working, even the technological part that you think could help you? If you didn't understand something in TimeTraveller TM, you would also not understand it in this. You good?
Let's talk about this faraway place for a moment. We sometimes call it Garamhyake. In your language, that means sky world. Its people are a peaceful race who have overcome most diseases and hardly know the meaning of death. They have harnessed geothermal, wind, and solar power and are brilliant botanists. One of their greatest creations is the celestial tree. Developed over thousands of years of careful cultivation, the tree's blossoms emit light. In fact, they light the whole world. The guardian of the celestial tree is a kind and conscientious young man named Larumrode. It is his responsibility to make sure the tree is properly cared for, and he, indeed, everyone regards this duty as an honor.